Hello everyone, welcome to today's session of Understanding Tone and Formality in OET Writing. My name is Anina Saji Abraham from Neethus Academy. If you are preparing for OET Writing module, then mastering in proper tone and formality is essential in order to achieve a perfect score. In this video, we will explore what tone and formality mean, what is the importance of this tone and formality in the OET writing, and by using both of them, how we can impress the examiners. So let's get started. This section I have divided it into 4. Let's see section 1, that is what is tone in OET writing. In the context of OET writing, tone refers to the attitude or the feeling that your letter conveys to the reader. So, for that, your tone should be professional, respectful, and caring. Because you are writing a letter as a health professional to another health professionals. So, you have to always remember 3 things. First, your goal is to communicate clinical information clearly and helpfully. Second, avoid sounding casual, emotional, or overly personal. Third, your writing should reflect empathy. However, it must contain a professional distance. For example, instead of writing, "I'm really worried about the patient," you should write, "I am concerned about the patient's condition." Now, let's move on to the second section. What is formality in OET writing? Formality in OET writing means you have to use professional, structured, and polite language. That is, you must avoid slang and contractions like don't, won't, can't, etc., along with overly casual expressions. Here also you have to keep it in mind 3 key features. The first one is full forms. Use do not instead of don't. Second, professional vocabulary. That is, you can use terms like administer medication rather than give medication. The third is, you have to use third-person style when appropriate. That is, you have to focus on the patient, not yourself. Here, I'll give you some third-person pronouns. That is, for example, he, him, his, she, her, herself, them, their, etc. For example, instead of writing "the patient's gonna need some help," you should write "the patient will require assistance." Now we can proceed with third section, that is why tone and formality matter. Tone and formality are directly linked to the OET assessment criteria, particularly under purpose and then under genre and style. Poor tone or casual writing can make your letter unprofessional, confusing, or even disrespectful. So guys, in order to make your letter or in order to make your tone and formality better, you have to keep it in mind 3 points. First, helps the reader trust your professional judgment, ensures your communication is clear and effective, directly contributes to a higher grade in the writing subtest. Finally, moving on to the 4th section, that is how to maintain tone and formality in the OET writing. For that, I'll give you some practical tips. First, know your audience. That is, you have to always check to whom you are writing. The reader can be a GP, a community nurse, or even a social worker. This will help you to adjust your tone depending upon their professional role. Second is, use modal verbs politely. That is, use words like could, would, may instead of sounding too direct. For example, in the recommendation paragraph, we can start like, "It would be appreciated if you could assess or monitor her blood glucose level." Third is, avoid emotional language. That is, do not express personal concerns or emotions like "I believe" or "I feel." Instead, you have to use facts or professional observations. Fourth, structure your letter properly. That is, you have to write a well-organized and structured letter which sounds more professional. For that, you have to use standard structures. That is, in your letter, it should contain introduction, that is, purpose of the writing. Second is body paragraphs, where you have to include all the relevant information logically ordered. And third is conclusion, where you will add all the recommendations and suggestions. Fifth is you have to proofread your letter carefully. That is, in your final draft or after completing your letter, you have to proofread your letter or go through the letter and see if your tone and formality is proper. For that, you have to ask yourself two things. First, is the language respectful? Second, is the style formal and professional throughout the letter? Now, let's quickly summarize what we have gone through. First, what is tone? It is professional, respectful and empathetic attitude. Second, formality, that is polite and formal language. Third, you have to always adjust your letters according to the reader. Fourth is avoid casual words, contractions and emotional expressions. Fifth is you have to maintain professionalism and clarity throughout the letter. Thank you for watching this session on understanding the tone and formality in OET writing. By applying all these tips, you can write your letter in a more professional way so that you can boost your score. See you in the next section. Thank you.
Neethus Academy, India's #1 language academy.